Now, Mr. McCormack is he's not only the 15-time winner of the National Press Club Golf Tournament, but for 15 years he's also coached a high school golf team. So please join me in welcoming Richard McCormack.
And I have, like Tiger, I have like 15 women in the club. I don't use Tiger as a role model, by the way. I never have. You know that thing when he does this? It's like, I don't like seeing my golfers do this when the ball goes in the hole. So, well, thank you for having me. This is a really nice place you got here. I do edit a manufacturing publication. The title originally was called Manufacturing News, and people would ask me, what news are you manufacturing this week? And, you know, as a member of the press corps, I kind of feel like almost like somebody who works in the manufacturing community, just under attack. There are a lot of industries that are suffering, and definitely journalism is one of them. So there are very few journalists in Washington, D.C. who cover manufacturing. You know, Scott Paul is from the Alliance for American Manufacturing. I don't know how many journalists you work with. Maybe they hit and miss this subject. But I cover day in and day out. And so I'm in touch with this community of manufacturing people who are motivated, many of them, to save America. I mean, a few years ago there was a manufacturing group called SAM, Save America Now, and then, or Save American Manufacturing, SAM. And then there was Made in USA. They changed Made in USA to Mad in USA. But, so because I cover manufacturing, and manufacturing has been under such stress and attack over the last 8 years especially, I've had a lot of people in the manufacturing community touch me. And their stories are just absolutely stunning. And over the last 8 years, I've covered manufacturing really for about more than 20 years. But over the last 8 years, I sometimes wonder if I should just rename my publication to One Outrage After Another. Because the stories I hear are absolutely stunning. We have people in the manufacturing community who come to Washington and present a case that is absolutely ironclad, that what they're up against is basically almost impossible for them to deal with, which is foreign competition that's not based so much on them competing against another company, but them competing against another country. So they come to our government and they say, we're competing against, this little company of 400 people or 300 people or 700 people, we're competing against a country of 1.3 billion. Can you do something here? Just look at the situation. Here's our situation. And they get a 10-year. So like Mad in USA, or Mad Now, it was supposed to be Made in USA, and they changed it to Mad because they were so mad. Came to Washington, these business people, manufacturing people, came to Washington. This was when George Bush was president, and basically we're just told, you guys don't really matter. Because what really matters now is not manufacturing. We hear it constantly. Manufacturing is low tech, those are dirty jobs, or they're not essential, not important. What matters is the knowledge economy. What matters is service economy. It's still prevalent. And we've had, a decade of this, or more, basically 3 decades of this argument being foisted upon us that it doesn't matter. We don't need to really make anything because it doesn't matter. We have a knowledge economy. We're going to move up to the higher tiers of services and the like. And the people in the manufacturing community, the people that I deal with, who I report on, they for years were talking about the repercussions of this economic ideology. And for years, I avoided, because I have a stake in this game, I avoided using words like, oh, we're going to have a collapse, we're going to have a meltdown, this is going to end up in a financial calamity. I felt like I shouldn't try to put fuel on that fire. So I didn't really, as a journalist, I kind of ignored those statements. And I didn't really cover them. But the manufacturing community was very cognizant because they were watching this trade deficit. Our trade deficits were absolutely monumental. They were monumental. For goods trade deficit 2 years ago in 2008, it was over $800 billion. They were looking at these trade deficits. This is our wealth disappearing from our country. You've seen it disappear from this region. And manufacturers looking at this going, you can't run like Wile E. Coyote off the edge of a cliff and stay, suspended on this debt bubble or on this figure. And Ernest Prieg is somebody who we quote in the book that we have published here. Manufacturing a Better Future for America is our book. But Ernest Prieg is the chief economist or one of the economists at MAPI, the Manufacturers Alliance. And he said, the trade deficit, this was like 4 years ago, the trade deficit was like a gallows hanging over our head. So I didn't, and I reported that because it wasn't calamity or disaster or catastrophe word. Now I talk to manufacturers, and we suffered an economic meltdown. It's interesting, or a financial meltdown, and the repercussions are just beginning the wave of repercussions is hitting America. But it's interesting, just even on this trade deficit situation, and so central in that is China's currency policy. And for years, I've reported on the China currency policy, or the lack thereof. And the people in the administration, the financial people in the administration, did not want to pressure China on their currency. Because they said, and repeatedly they said this, was that China's financial system is fragile. We don't want to, they could suffer calamity or collapse or something or meltdown. So our government did not pursue China on their cheating on their currency, the way we did in Japan. We pursued them in the Plaza Accord and the like back in the 80s. We said, you're cheating, you're not allowed to cheat. This is Ronald Reagan. China's currency went from like 360 yen to the dollar to 90. That's like a 400% difference. But we heard for years this excuse that we can't pursue China because they have a fragile financial system. Well, it wasn't their financial system that collapsed 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. And we still have the same people running our government as we did back when, these issues were being brought up by the Save American Manufacturing groups and others. I watched the speech last night, and I'm just not sure if they get it yet. Covering Washington is interesting because we have changes of administrations. So new people come in. And it's interesting that power is maybe like a neodymium magnet, something that's really strong. It's the strongest magnet. It's sitting there. That's the heart of our government. And for 8 years, we had these Democrats floating around. They've been involved in the Clinton administration. Then we have Obama come in. It's like this neodymium magnet is sitting there in Washington, and all these people just glom on. It's the same people who were involved 8 years ago during the Clinton years. Suddenly are back.